It begins the same way, every time. She looks at you, but not for who you are, no, she looks at you as who she imagines you could become. You feel it in her gaze, don't you? That little flicker of something, hope, maybe, or is it hunger? You think she's seeing you, but she's not. What's happening is that she's measuring you, scanning you, as though you were a blank canvas, waiting for her to craft her version of you. But here's the truth, the masterpiece she envisions isn't you. It never was. Carl Jung warned you about this. Not with comforting words or soft encouragement like you'd get from some motivational speaker, but with the cold, sharp precision of a man who spent his life digging into the deepest parts of the human psyche. Jung devoted his entire career to studying the unconscious mind, that hidden part of us that operates beneath our awareness, silently influencing our decisions, our feelings, and our perceptions. And through this deep dive, he discovered something truly disturbing about women. Jung realized that women don't just fall in love with men, they fall in love with the idea of men. They fall for the fantasy, the projections, the versions of men they've created in their own minds. And the scariest part? Most of them have no idea they're doing it. You might think she's choosing you, right? But what she's actually choosing is not the real you. It's the version of you she's crafted in her mind, a psychological puppet that exists to play a role in her own personal story. And when you stop fitting that role, she changes the actor. Not the script, just the actor. Jung called this psychological projection the Animus, the inner masculine image that resides inside every woman. And when this animus is immature or unchecked, it becomes dangerous. It turns into a tyrant, an unseen force that leads women to chase after dangerous men and reject the good ones, making them argue for no reason, dominate without wisdom, and moralize without accountability. Jung didn't sugarcoat this. He called it a form of spiritual possession, a state where the woman herself becomes blind to the fact that she's no longer acting from her own consciousness, but from the grip of her inner masculine fantasy. And men, you fall for it because nobody ever taught you how to spot it. You confuse being desired with being truly known. You mistake being chosen for being understood. You believe her when she says, "You're different." But in reality, you're just the latest version of the man she's projected onto, the latest character she's cast in a script she's been rehearsing since childhood. And when the fantasy fades, when the mask slips, you're left confused, betrayed, and humiliated, wondering what went wrong. But here's the thing, you didn't do anything wrong. You simply stopped being convincing in someone else's play. Jung warned that the only way out of this psychological theater is through what he called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole, of integrating all the parts of yourself, including the parts you've ignored or hidden. And here's the uncomfortable truth, most men never embark on this journey. You've been taught to chase approval, to seek validation, to let women define your worth. And as long as you do that, you'll keep playing the same role over and over, only to be replaced whenever the audience grows bored. Individuation isn't glamorous. It's a brutal process. It requires you to face parts of yourself you'd rather not see, the weak, the insecure, the broken. It demands you stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. Because here's what Jung knew, and what most men will never understand, you don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. You don't earn your worth by her affection, you earn it by standing alone, fully awake, fully responsible, and fully alive. A man who has faced his own unconscious cannot be seduced by projection. He no longer plays the role someone else has cast him in. He's the author of his own story. Jung observed that the greatest tragedy of modern men isn't rejection. It's that they're willing to mold themselves into whatever shape they think will be accepted. You call it compromise. You call it partnership. You call it love. But Jung had another name for it, self-betrayal. He warned that men who ignore their own psychological development become slaves to the feminine projection, bending themselves like wet clay into the shapes women demand, shapes they don't even understand themselves. You stop being men and start being masks. You smile, nod, agree, perform, and eventually, you forget who you were before you put the mask on. And women, they sense it. They sense it more than you realize. The very qualities you think will make her love you, obedience, predictability, availability, become the very reasons she loses attraction. Why? Because, Jung taught, the feminine instinct isn't drawn to comfort. It's drawn to mystery, to risk, to the man she can't fully define or control. The moment you make yourself fully known, without boundaries, without a backbone, you don't become more lovable. You become invisible, disposable, replaceable. And yet, here's the paradox that keeps most men enslaved. You fear being alone more than you fear being fake. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. You'd rather live in a role than face the terror of standing alone, without applause. But Jung taught that until a man embraces solitude, he will never be free. He said that individuation is not a path for the faint of heart because it requires you to die before you die, to let go of the false versions of yourself so something real can finally emerge. But let me tell you something that most won't say out loud: individuation is lonely. Terrifyingly lonely. Because as you walk this path, you begin to see things you can never unsee. You start recognizing the games people play, the masks they wear, the lies they tell themselves just to feel safe. And when you try to share what you see, they'll mock you. They'll call you cold, arrogant, too serious. They'll accuse you of being the problem. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror. And people hate the mirror when it reflects back things they don't want to see. Jung knew this well. He spent decades studying patients who were terrified of confronting their own shadows, those dark, rejected parts of their psyche they refused to acknowledge. And women, Jung warned, are often raised in cultures that reward them for avoiding that confrontation. They're told they are pure, emotional, intuitive, and complete just as they are. But Jung didn't buy it. He wrote that the greatest danger to women was their unconscious animus, the inner masculine voice that speaks with false certainty, false authority, and false moral superiority. He warned that if a woman doesn't confront and integrate this inner masculine force, she becomes a prisoner of it, projecting it onto every man she meets, blaming them for the very war she refuses to fight within herself. And there you are, thinking you're her savior, thinking that if you love her hard enough, prove yourself loud enough, perform well enough, she'll finally choose you for who you truly are. But that's not how projection works. Jung taught that projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with illusion. And until both men and women wake up from that illusion, they'll keep repeating the same tragedy, over and over again. Each blaming the other, never realizing they're both dancing with shadows. And here lies the most ironic twist of all. The woman who once saw you as her hero will one day see you as her enemy, not because you changed, but because you failed to fulfill the fantasy she cast on you. And she won't even realize she's doing it. Jung called this psychological betrayal inevitable when neither party takes responsibility for their own inner world. You didn't lie to her. You didn't betray her. You simply disappointed the invisible character she invented in her unconscious mind. You were never him to begin with. And that's why she resents you, not for your flaws, but because you failed to live up to the myth she never told you you were hired to play. Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And nowhere is this more evident than in romantic relationships. Both men and women enter them not as whole individuals but as walking projections, dragging their unmet needs, unresolved childhood wounds, and unlived fears into the arms of another person they barely understand. You call it love. Jung called it possession. And like a man hypnotized, you keep walking into the trap, thinking this time it will be different. But it never is, because you haven't yet asked the most terrifying question a man can ask himself: what if I am the one responsible for this pattern? You want to blame women. You want to call them manipulative, deceptive, shallow. But Jung would look you in the eye and ask, and why did you let yourself be chosen by that woman in the first place? You see, the man who refuses to confront his own inner feminine is destined to be a slave to hers. You're not a victim. You're a volunteer. You chose to play the fool. You chose to be the actor in her private myth. Because facing your own emptiness, your own lack of wholeness, was far more terrifying than playing a part in someone else's fantasy. And here's where most of you will stop listening. Because this is where the comfort ends and the responsibility begins. Jung didn't offer quick solutions. He didn't give you 3 easy steps to becoming an alpha male. No, he gave you the lifelong task of self-confrontation. He gave you the challenge of sitting alone in the silence of your own mind until the illusions begin to crack, until the voice inside that says you're nothing without her starts to die. And make no mistake, that voice will fight for its life. It will tell you that you need her, that you are incomplete without her, that no man can live without feminine validation. But Jung's work whispers something far more dangerous. The man who can stand without her, without approval, without applause, without being needed, is the man who is finally free. Free from projection. Free from performance. Free from the tyranny of living as someone else's idea of a man. And when you reach that place, you don't become cold or distant. You become real. You become rooted. Grounded. Fully alive in your own skin. And that, paradoxically, is when women will be most drawn to you. Not because you need them, but because you don't. You'll smile not because you're heartless, but because you finally understand. You understand that she is on her own journey too. She must face her own animus. She must wake up from her own illusions. You can't do that work for her. You can't save her from herself. You can only do what Jung did, walk your own path fearlessly, and in doing so, become a living mirror that reflects the truth to everyone who dares to look. Most will turn away, but a few, just a rare few, will thank you for it. And that, my friend, is the difference between being loved for the role you play and being respected for the man you've become. And when that moment comes, when you realize you no longer need to perform, something strange begins to happen. You'll start to notice it in the people around you. They'll feel uncomfortable in your presence, even if they can't name it. Your presence will unsettle them. Why? Because you no longer fit into the predictable categories they use to feel safe. You've become something they can't control, something they don't know how to define. And that's exactly when they'll start to resent you for it. Jung warned us that the man who has achieved individuation, who has fully integrated himself, is not welcomed by society. He is feared, misunderstood, and often labeled as distant or arrogant. But the truth is far more profound. The truth is that you've simply become untouchable, unmanipulable, because you see through the game. You can no longer be manipulated by others' projections. And that, my friend, is true freedom. Here's where it gets interesting. The very people who once begged for your attention, for your validation, for your approval, those people will begin to resent you for no longer needing theirs. Women, especially those who are still trapped in the fantasy of the perfect man, will accuse you of being emotionally unavailable. They'll say you're too analytical, too distant, too serious. But what they're really saying is that they no longer have control over you. You've stepped off the stage. You've stopped reading from their script. Without that script, they don't know what to do with you because you've stopped being a character in their story. You've become a man in your own right. And this is where Jung's teachings hit home the hardest. The man who has become whole, who has embraced his own truth, will never be anyone else's puppet. And that's what people fear the most. Not because you're arrogant, not because you're cold, but because you are untouchable. And when that happens, you'll realize something remarkable. The very thing you were seeking all along, true connection, true love, true respect, wasn't found by performing for others, but by simply becoming the real version of yourself. Jung once joked that the gods have become diseases. That what ancient cultures used to call divine possession, modern psychology now calls neurosis. And make no mistake, the men who chase validation, who chase approval, who chase external praise, Jung would argue that these men are the most spiritually sick of all. You think you're being romantic when you say things like, "I'd do anything for her," or "she's my everything." But Jung would look at you and tell you that what you're calling love is actually a refusal to carry your own soul. It's easier to project your hopes, your meaning, and your purpose onto a woman than it is to carry that weight yourself. Because if she carries it, you don't have to. But here's the brutal twist: when she realizes she was never meant to carry your soul, she will drop it. She must. Because no woman, no matter how loving, can bear the weight of a man who refuses to carry himself. And when she drops it, you'll feel betrayed. But here's the truth: you shouldn't feel betrayed. You should thank her. Because in that moment, when the illusion collapses, you will finally be faced with the truth. The work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. In that raw moment of clarity, you're left with two choices. You can blame her. You can become bitter. You can join the chorus of men who point fingers at women, accusing them of being manipulative, shallow, and unworthy. Or you can do what Jung would have demanded of you. You can turn inward. You can start the terrifying, liberating work of individuation, of becoming whole without needing anyone else to complete you. Because here's the truth: the woman you're searching for out there, the one you think will make everything better, is a reflection of the part of yourself you've abandoned. Until you face that part, every relationship will be a performance. Every connection will be a transaction. Every love will be a lie. But when you do face that part, when you confront your own inner feminine, when you integrate that shadow, you'll become a man who no longer needs to chase women. You won't run after them. You won't manipulate them. You won't perform for them. You'll stand still, grounded in who you truly are. And from that place of self-assurance, something miraculous will happen. You will no longer attract women who are looking for a character. You'll attract women who want the truth. And here's the beautiful part: you'll know it when it happens. She won't need you to perform. She won't try to change your script. She won't fall in love with the fantasy of you. She'll stand before you, raw and real, not as a goddess looking for worship, but as a human being willing to walk her own path beside you. There will be no masks, no projections, no games. When you meet her, the real her, not the fantasy, you'll know the difference instantly. She won't bombard you with grand declarations. She won't treat you like the missing piece of her puzzle. She won't try to seduce you with the language of completion. Because she isn't looking to be completed. She's done the work herself. She's met her own shadow. She's confronted her own animus. She's burned through her own illusions. And that's why she won't need you to perform. She won't need you to carry her soul. She'll stand there whole, looking you in the eye, not as a man she wants to mold, but as a man she's finally ready to meet. And in that meeting, there will be no desperation. No clinging. No performance. There will only be truth. And that truth, Jung taught, is the rarest and most dangerous kind of love. The kind that demands nothing but offers everything. Because it's not born of need. It's born of freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to walk away. Freedom to stand together without illusions, without masks, without fear. But let me warn you, most of you will never experience this. Because most of you will quit before you get there. You'll settle for the performance. You'll settle for the fantasy. You'll settle for the temporary thrill of being seen as someone you are not, because facing who you truly are still feels unbearable. But if you have the courage, the brutal, gut-wrenching courage to keep walking, to keep standing alone, to keep stripping away every false layer you've built to earn approval, you will eventually find yourself standing at the edge of something terrifyingly beautiful. You will find yourself. And when you do, women will no longer be the source of your identity. They will no longer be the mirror you use to feel like a man. They will become something else entirely. Partners, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not saviors. And you will love them, not because you need them, but because you choose to. From a place of strength. From a place of wholeness. From a place that knows, without apology, exactly who you are. Carl Jung didn't leave you a map to follow. He didn't hand you a step-by-step guide to becoming a perfect man. Instead, he left you a warning. A warning that every man who refuses to confront himself will become a slave to the projections of others, especially the projections of women. But Jung didn't just leave you a warning, he also gave you a challenge. A challenge to walk the path of individuation, to stop blaming women for the roles you volunteer to play, to stop seeking wholeness in someone else's eyes, to stop waiting to be chosen. Because the man who chooses himself fully, unapologetically, relentlessly, is the man who cannot be controlled by fantasy. He cannot be seduced by performance. He cannot be reduced to a character in someone else's script. He becomes the author of his own life. And if you've made it this far, if something in you has shifted while reading this, then take a moment right now to reflect. Don't just scroll away or dismiss this as just another video. This is an opportunity to change the narrative of your life, to step into the role of the man you were always meant to be. Like this video. Share it with another man who needs to hear this. Subscribe for more. Your support isn't just for us. It's for the next man who's still living in the illusion, still waiting to be set free. Help us spread this message. Help us wake up the world, one man at a time. Because when enough men start living in their truth, when enough men stop performing for approval, the world will begin to change. We'll be one step closer to a world where real men stand tall, free from the need for validation, and grounded in their own truth. A world where men no longer seek to be loved for the roles they play, but respected for the men they've become. But here's the thing. This won't be an easy journey. It's going to take time. It's going to be uncomfortable. There will be moments of self-doubt, moments when the pressure to conform, to perform, will feel overwhelming. But every time you feel that pull, every time you feel the temptation to slip back into an old role, remember this: you are choosing yourself. And with every choice to stay true to who you are one step closer to becoming the man who is untouchable by projection. One step closer to becoming the man who can no longer be seduced by the illusion. And here's where the real magic begins. When you start to choose yourself, when you start to stand in your own truth, you'll begin to notice a shift. You'll stop attracting women who want a fantasy. You'll stop attracting women who are looking for someone to play a role in their lives. Instead, you'll attract women who want the truth. Women who want a partner, not a project. Women who want someone who is fully grounded in themselves, someone who doesn't need to be molded or shaped into what they desire. And that, my friend, is when real love begins to unfold. Not the kind of love that comes from need, but the kind that comes from freedom. Freedom to be yourself. Freedom to stand without fear. Freedom to be loved not for who you pretend to be, but for who you truly are. But here's the catch: it's not just about the women you attract. It's about the man you become. When you stop performing, when you stop playing the role, you'll discover that the most important relationship in your life isn't the one you have with someone else, it's the one you have with yourself. And that's the relationship that needs to be nurtured first. That's the relationship that needs to be healed. Because when you truly learn to love yourself, when you truly learn to embrace your own truth, your own imperfections, your own unique journey, that's when you'll realize that you don't need anyone else to define your worth. You don't need anyone else to complete you. You are already whole. And from that place of wholeness, you can enter into relationships that are healthy, real, and grounded in truth. Jung understood that this process of individuation is not about achieving perfection, it's about embracing your humanity. It's about accepting that you're not a perfect man, but a real one. And when you embrace your realness, when you stop pretending to be something you're not, that's when you become truly free. So, as you move forward on this journey, remember that the work of individuation is a lifelong one. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes courage. But with each step, you'll shed the layers of illusion. You'll let go of the roles you've been playing, and you'll step into the man you were always meant to be. And when you do, you'll realize that the greatest gift you can give to yourself, and to the world, is your authenticity. You'll be a man who no longer lives for the approval of others, but a man who stands in his own truth, rooted and grounded in who he is. This is the path of freedom. This is the path to real love. This is the path to becoming the man you were always meant to be. Now, let's dive deeper into the concept of freedom that Jung was talking about. It's not just about being free from other people's expectations, though that's a big part of it. True freedom comes from being free from your own illusions, the illusions you've created about yourself, the ones you've allowed others to impose on you, and the ones you've accepted as your identity. This is the real work. The work that Jung calls individuation isn't about fixing yourself or trying to become someone you're not. It's about stripping away the false layers, the masks, the roles, and getting to the core of who you really are. And when you start that journey, the truth is, it's not glamorous. It's not easy. It's gritty, uncomfortable, and it will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself. But here's the thing. You can't get to the other side of this transformation without confronting the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. The parts that are weak. The parts that are insecure. The parts that are afraid. Because those are the parts that hold the key to your freedom. Until you confront them, until you integrate them, they will continue to control you from the shadows. And the moment you stop running from those parts of yourself is the moment you begin to step into your power. The great irony here is that most men will never do this work. Most men are too afraid to face their own shadows. They'd rather keep playing the role, keep seeking validation, keep running from themselves. And because of that, they will continue to be trapped in a cycle of performance, trying to please others, trying to be someone they're not. But here's the harsh reality, the more you perform, the more you lose yourself. You're not becoming who you were meant to be, you're becoming a puppet, an actor in someone else's script. And the problem with that is, you'll never be satisfied. You'll never find peace. You'll never feel truly seen or known, because what you're really being seen for is the role you're playing, not who you truly are. Women will love the character you've created, but they won't love you, the real you, because you're not showing up as your authentic self. You're hiding behind the mask. But here's the radical truth, the more you stop performing, the more you stop trying to be what others want you to be, the more you'll start to realize that you are enough, just as you are. The more you accept yourself, flaws and all, the more you'll stop seeking external validation. You'll stop chasing love. You'll stop chasing approval. You'll stop trying to prove yourself. And when you do, you'll be free. And here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you start to choose yourself, the moment you stop seeking approval from women or anyone else, something shifts. You stop attracting women who want a character. You stop attracting women who want someone to fit into their idea of perfection. Instead, you begin to attract women who want the truth. Women who want authenticity. Women who want someone who isn't afraid to stand on his own, someone who doesn't need to be validated by external sources. And that's the type of woman you want. Not someone who needs you to perform for her. Not someone who needs you to play a role. But someone who sees you, the real you, and loves you for it. The man who is fully grounded in himself doesn't need to seek approval. He doesn't need to be validated. He stands on his own, fully awake to who he is, and because of that, he becomes magnetic. Not because he's performing, but because he's simply being himself. That's the power of individuation. When you stop playing the game, when you stop trying to live up to other people's expectations, you finally start living your own life. You stop being a character in someone else's story, and you start writing your own. The truth is, there's no real freedom without facing yourself. There's no real power without self-acceptance. There's no real love without self-awareness. The moment you start accepting your own truth, when you stop hiding from who you really are, you'll see the world differently. You'll stop chasing after things that don't matter. You'll stop playing roles that don't serve you. You'll stop seeking validation and start living your own truth. And here's the real kicker. When you finally get to that place, when you're fully grounded in your own authenticity, something magical happens. You stop worrying about being loved. You stop worrying about being needed. You stop worrying about being wanted. And when that happens, you'll realize that true love is not about needing someone else to complete you. It's about being fully complete on your own and finding someone who complements that. Jung knew that the greatest tragedy of modern men was not that they were rejected, but that they were willing to mold themselves into whatever shape they believed would be accepted. But real men, the ones who have done the work of individuation, the ones who are whole within themselves, don't mold themselves for anyone. They don't perform. They don't chase approval. They are simply who they are, and that's enough. The man who has faced his own darkness is untouchable. He's no longer a puppet in someone else's fantasy. He's the author of his own life. And when you get to that point, you won't need anyone else to complete you. You'll be whole, grounded, and fully alive. And from that place of inner power, you will attract the kind of love that is real, authentic, and unconditional. But let me be clear, most men will never make it to this place. Most men will continue to play the role. They'll continue seeking validation. They'll continue chasing the fantasy. But if you have the courage, the real courage, to stop performing, to stop chasing, and to start standing in your own truth, you will experience a level of freedom, peace, and love that most can only dream of. When you finally stop performing for others, when you step into your own authenticity, the world around you begins to shift. You'll notice it right away, how people respond to you. Some will be drawn to you, while others may pull away, uncomfortable with the new energy you exude. But here's the thing, you'll no longer need to please everyone. You'll no longer need to fit into the neat little boxes that society or others try to place you in. The moment you embrace your real self, your true power, you become untouchable by the projections of others. This is the real secret to becoming a man who is free. When you stop trying to fit someone else's mold, when you stop seeking to be what others want you to be, that's when you'll become the most powerful version of yourself. Not because you've earned it through performance or external validation, but because you've earned it through your authenticity. You see, most men are trapped in a cycle of trying to be what everyone else wants them to be. They mold themselves into the image that others project onto them, thinking that if they do, they'll finally be accepted, loved, or validated. But here's the truth, when you bend to other people's projections, you're not really living for yourself. You're living for their approval, for their idea of who you should be. You're living for the image they've created in their minds. And when that image no longer fits, when the illusion crumbles, you're left with nothing but confusion, loss, and betrayal. But the moment you stop performing, when you stop trying to fulfill someone else's fantasy, that's when you begin to truly live. You no longer need external validation because you've already validated yourself. You no longer need to chase love because you've already discovered that love starts within. You stop performing for the approval of others, and you start living your truth unapologetically. And here's where things get interesting. The moment you stop performing, the moment you start standing in your truth, women, real women, the ones who are grounded in their own authenticity, will be drawn to you. Not because you need them, but because you don't. The woman who is also grounded in her own truth will respect you for not seeking her approval. She won't need you to play a role, and you won't need her to complete you. You'll be two whole people coming together, not because you need each other, but because you choose each other. This is the kind of relationship that comes from a place of mutual respect and understanding. It's not about two people trying to mold one another to fit their projections. It's about two people coming together, both whole in their own right, both secure in who they are. And this kind of love, the kind that's based on truth, is the most fulfilling and transformative love you can experience. But let me remind you, this kind of love doesn't come from chasing someone else's idea of you. It doesn't come from seeking approval, or from performing to meet someone else's expectations. It comes from choosing yourself first. It comes from knowing your worth and standing firm in your truth. And when you do that, the right people, the people who are also grounded in their truth, will naturally be drawn to you. You'll stop attracting people who want to control you or manipulate you. You'll stop attracting people who want to change you. You'll start attracting people who see you for who you really are and appreciate you for it. This is when you know you've reached the point of true freedom. But here's the harsh reality that most men never face: the reason you're stuck in this cycle of performing, of seeking validation, is because you're afraid of being alone. You fear that if you stop performing, you'll lose the affection of others. You fear that if you stop trying to be someone else's idea of a man, you'll be left out in the cold. But the truth is, the only way to break free from this cycle is to embrace solitude. To embrace being alone. To embrace being enough, just as you are. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires you to die to the old version of yourself. It requires you to let go of the false roles and identities you've been playing, and to step into the real you. It's a painful process, but it's the only way to truly be free. And here's the thing, until you embrace solitude, until you accept that being alone doesn't mean being incomplete, you'll never truly be free. You'll always be a puppet, performing for someone else's approval, trying to fulfill a role that was never meant for you. When you accept yourself, when you stand in your own truth, you no longer need the validation of others. You no longer need anyone to tell you that you're enough. You'll know it because you will have already chosen yourself. And that's when everything changes. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that being alone means being unwanted, unloved, or unimportant. But that's not true. The man who can stand alone, fully grounded in his own truth, is the man who is truly free. He is the man who attracts the right people, the people who are aligned with his energy, his values, and his authenticity. He is the man who no longer needs to perform or seek approval because he has already found everything he needs within himself. And when you finally get there, when you finally reach that place of self-acceptance and inner peace, you'll see the world in a completely different way. You'll stop chasing after things that don't matter. You'll stop performing for the approval of others. You'll stop playing roles that don't serve you. And you'll start living for yourself. You'll start living your own life, grounded in your own truth, and from that place, everything will shift. You'll stop attracting people who are drawn to the false version of you. You'll start attracting people who are drawn to the real you. And that, my friend, is the key to true connection. True love. True freedom. But most men never get to that point. Most men never embrace their truth. They continue to perform. They continue to chase. They continue to seek validation. But the moment you choose yourself, the moment you step into your own truth, is the moment your life will change forever. Because the truth is, you are enough. Just as you are. And when you truly believe that, when you truly embrace it, you'll become the man you were always meant to be. So, let's break this down further. You see, the moment you decide to stop performing for others, when you decide to fully embrace your truth, something profound happens. You start to become a magnet, not for the wrong reasons, not because you're pretending to be something you're not, but because you are living in your authenticity. And the moment you stop seeking validation, stop trying to fill the emptiness with external approval, you start to resonate on a frequency that attracts people who are aligned with your truth. Jung's concept of individuation isn't just some theoretical idea, it's a process. A journey that requires the courage to walk alone at times, to face parts of yourself that you've spent years running away from. The true work of individuation is about integrating those parts, the parts you've rejected, the ones that are messy, insecure, and broken, and embracing them as part of who you are. It's about standing fully in your power, not because you've been molded by others, but because you've chosen to be the real, unfiltered version of yourself. This is where most men fail. Most men never confront their own shadows, those parts of themselves they're terrified to face. And without doing so, they remain stuck in a cycle of performance. They keep playing roles in relationships, in their careers, in their social lives, because they're afraid of what might happen if they stop. They're afraid of being rejected, of being abandoned. But in the end, it's that very fear that keeps them trapped. When you start the journey of individuation, when you begin to fully embrace who you are, both the good and the bad, you start to realize that you don't need anyone's approval to feel complete. You stop chasing love, affection, and validation because you've already found them within yourself. And when that shift happens, you'll find that the right people, women, friends, colleagues, will be drawn to you, not because you need them, but because you are enough on your own. This is when relationships begin to change. They shift from being about neediness, about seeking something from the other person, to being about true connection. Two people who are both grounded in their own truth, who are whole in themselves, can come together not to complete one another but to complement each other. They aren't trying to fill each other's gaps, but rather, they're two whole individuals choosing to walk the same path, sharing their journey, but never depending on each other to define their worth. The sad truth is that most men will continue to play the part because they fear being alone. They'll settle for the illusion of love, the illusion of connection, because facing their own fears is too difficult. But here's the reality: you will never find true connection until you face yourself first. The connection you seek with others is merely a reflection of the connection you have with yourself. If you're always running from your own truth, always seeking validation from the outside, you will never be truly fulfilled. And women will sense that. Women are drawn to the man who stands firmly in his own truth, who doesn't need them to complete him, who is not afraid to face the parts of himself that others shy away from. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up as you are, unafraid to be vulnerable, unafraid to be honest with yourself, and with them. And here's something that most men never realize until it's too late: the more you stand in your own truth, the more you stop performing, the more you will attract women who are on the same path. Women who aren't looking for a project. Women who are looking for a partner. Women who are whole within themselves, who aren't trying to mold you into something you're not. They'll love you not because you fulfill a fantasy, but because you stand in your own power. Jung's teachings about projection and individuation aren't just about relationships, they're about self-empowerment. They're about reclaiming your life from the roles you've been playing, from the illusions you've bought into, and stepping into your authentic power. The man who can do that, the man who can stand alone, fully awake to who he is a man who is free from the expectations of society, free from the projections of others, and free from the fear of rejection. Most men are terrified of this. They fear the loneliness that comes with stepping away from the performance, from the validation they've been seeking. But here's the truth: the loneliness you feel when you stop performing is not real loneliness. It's the space that is created for something much deeper. It's the space for self-discovery, for growth, for becoming the man you were always meant to be. And once you embrace that space, you will realize that you are never truly alone. You are whole. You are complete. You don't need anyone else to fill the emptiness because you've already filled it with your own truth. So, let's ask the difficult question: how long are you going to keep performing? How long are you going to keep chasing approval, seeking validation, molding yourself to fit the expectations of others? How long are you going to keep playing the role that was never meant for you? Because the truth is, as long as you keep performing, you will never experience the freedom that comes with standing in your own authenticity. You will never experience the real love that comes from being loved for who you truly are. But when you choose to stop performing, when you choose to stand in your own truth, you will unlock a level of freedom that most men will never experience. You will become untouchable by the projections of others. You will no longer be manipulated or controlled by society's expectations. You will become the author of your own life, the creator of your own reality. And in that place of freedom, you will attract people, women, friends, colleagues, who are also grounded in their own truth. You will attract the kind of relationships that are based on mutual respect, genuine connection, and real love. And that, my friend, is when you will experience the kind of love and fulfillment that most men only dream of. So, the question is simple: are you ready to stop performing? Are you ready to embrace the man you truly are? Because when you do, you'll become the kind of man who no longer needs anyone else's approval. You'll become the kind of man who stands in his own power, who attracts the love and respect he deserves, and who is truly free. The journey of individuation is long, it's difficult, but it's the only way to achieve true freedom. And once you begin that journey, once you step into your own truth, you'll never look back. You'll never go back to the role you used to play. You'll never need anyone else to complete you. And that, my friend, is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. As you continue this journey of individuation, you'll begin to notice something remarkable. The more you step into your authentic self, the more you let go of the need for validation from others, the more you'll discover a profound sense of peace. It won't come from external sources, like approval, admiration, or affection. It will come from within. The peace of knowing who you are, the freedom of being truly yourself without the need to perform, is a gift that few men ever truly experience. But once you taste it, you will never want to go back to the life of playing roles or seeking validation. Most men go through life performing, acting out roles they think will bring them love, respect, or success. They mold themselves into whatever shape they think others expect them to be. They live for the applause, the approval, the recognition. But here's the problem: the more you mold yourself to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be, the more you lose yourself. You stop being real. You stop being authentic. You become a character, a mask, a puppet on a string. And when that mask falls, when the fantasy collapses, you're left with nothing but confusion, frustration, and a deep sense of betrayal, not from others, but from yourself. But when you stop performing, when you stop seeking approval from others, you will find something much deeper and more fulfilling. You will find yourself. You will find the man who has always been there, beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the false projections. And that man is powerful. That man is free. The journey of individuation is not about becoming someone else. It's about shedding the layers that have been placed on you by society, by others, and by yourself. It's about returning to who you truly are. And once you do that, you'll begin to notice how different everything feels. Relationships will become more meaningful because they'll be based on real connection, not performance. Work will become more fulfilling because you'll be doing it for yourself, not for the approval of others. Life will become more peaceful because you will no longer be living for someone else's expectations. But here's the catch: this journey is lonely. It's a road that not many are willing to walk. It's a path that requires you to confront your deepest fears, to face your own insecurities, and to accept the parts of yourself that you've been running from. The process of individuation requires courage. It requires the courage to stand alone, to walk a path that no one else is walking, to embrace the discomfort of change. And this is where most men falter. The fear of being alone, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough, keeps them trapped in the cycle of performance. They continue to wear masks, to play roles, because they are terrified of the emptiness they believe will consume them if they let go of the illusion. But the truth is, the emptiness is not something to fear. It's the space where true growth happens. It's the space where you can finally reconnect with your true self. When you stop performing, you stop trying to fill that emptiness with the approval of others. You stop seeking validation. You stop trying to be someone else's idea of who you should be. And in that space, you'll finally find the most profound peace, the peace of simply being. The peace of knowing that you are enough. The peace of knowing that you don't need anyone else's approval to feel complete. Once you begin to embrace this truth, once you stop running from yourself, you'll realize something incredible: you no longer need to prove anything. You don't need to chase love. You don't need to chase approval. You don't need to perform. And when you stop performing, you will begin to attract the kind of people who are grounded in their own truth. You will attract people who love you for who you are, not for the character you've been playing. And when you meet the right woman, the woman who is also on her own journey of individuation, something beautiful will happen. You won't need to mold yourself to fit her idea of who you should be. You won't need to perform to gain her love or affection. You will stand before her as your true self, grounded in your own truth, and she will do the same. You won't need to change her, and she won't need to change you. You'll both be whole, and that's when the deepest kind of connection happens. The connection that comes from truth. The connection that comes from authenticity. The connection that comes from two people who are grounded in their own power, who have faced their own shadows, who have embraced their own darkness and light. And when two people come together from this place, their relationship is no longer about need. It's about partnership. It's about mutual respect. It's about walking together on a journey, not because you need each other to complete you, but because you choose each other. And this, my friend, is the kind of love that will sustain you. It's not about the fantasy. It's not about the projections. It's not about playing a role. It's about real, raw, authentic love, love that is based on truth, not illusion. And when you embrace this kind of love, you will never need to perform again. Jung taught us that the greatest gift we can give to ourselves and to others is the gift of authenticity. The man who chooses to walk the path of individuation, who chooses to stop performing, will become free. Free from the expectations of others. Free from the need for validation. Free from the fear of being alone. And when you stand in your own power, when you embrace your own truth, you will attract the kind of love and respect that you deserve. But remember, the journey is not easy. It requires courage. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to be honest with yourself, even when the truth is painful. But the reward is worth it. When you walk this path, when you embrace your authenticity, you will become the man you were always meant to be. And from that place of authenticity, everything else will fall into place. As you continue down this path of individuation, you'll start to notice a major shift within yourself. No longer will you feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You won't be swayed by the opinions of others or driven by the desire to be liked or accepted. You'll begin to understand that the only validation you need is the validation you give to yourself. And when you no longer seek that external validation, a deep sense of peace will settle in, because you'll realize that you are enough as you are. This inner peace, this quiet confidence that arises from being true to yourself, is unlike anything you've ever felt before. It's not an arrogance or a false sense of superiority, it's a calm knowing that you have nothing to prove. You don't need to chase after anyone's approval, because you've already approved of yourself. And from that place, everything you do, whether it's your career, your relationships, or your personal growth, becomes an expression of your authentic self. You become a man who is fully grounded in who he is, not what others think he should be. The freedom that comes from standing in your truth is not just a freedom from others' expectations. It's a freedom from your own self-imposed limitations, from the masks you've worn to fit into a world that never fully understood you. When you stop performing, when you stop pretending to be someone else, you can finally show up as the person you were always meant to be. And that's when real relationships, real connections, start to form. But here's the challenge, this freedom doesn't come without sacrifice. To walk this path of individuation, to stop performing, requires you to give up the false comfort of approval and validation from others. You'll have to let go of the safety of being liked and accepted by everyone. You'll have to stop fearing being alone, stop fearing rejection, and stop fearing that you won't be enough. It's a terrifying thing to face those fears, but once you do, you'll realize that they were never as powerful as they seemed. When you embrace this level of self-acceptance, you'll notice something else happening as well. People around you, especially women, will start to respond differently to you. They'll no longer be drawn to the character you play, to the version of you that you've been performing for them. They'll be drawn to the real you, the man who stands confidently in his own truth, who no longer needs to prove himself. The kind of woman you attract will shift as well. Instead of chasing the fantasy, the projections, she'll be looking for someone who can meet her at the same level of truth. She won't want you to change, she'll want you for who you are, not for the role you're playing. But let me remind you, this doesn't mean you'll never experience loneliness again. In fact, the path of individuation is incredibly lonely at times. It's the kind of loneliness that arises when you choose to stop conforming to the expectations of others, when you choose to stop performing, and when you choose to stand alone in your truth. It's a loneliness that comes from shedding the masks and facing your authentic self. But it's not a destructive loneliness. It's a solitude that allows you to reconnect with your own soul. It's the kind of loneliness that offers space for growth, reflection, and deep self-awareness. And here's the beautiful irony. As you grow more comfortable with this solitude, as you become more confident in your own truth, you'll find that the loneliness begins to fade. It will no longer feel like a void, but rather like a space for something greater to emerge. You'll realize that you're no longer relying on anyone else to define you. You're no longer seeking validation from outside sources. Instead, you're living your life from a place of inner strength, and that is when true connection happens. Jung taught that individuation is the key to understanding and integrating both the masculine and feminine parts of ourselves. It's about reconciling these inner forces, about becoming whole by accepting all parts of who we are. The more you can integrate these aspects of yourself, the more you'll be able to stand in your own power. You won't need someone else to fill the gaps or to complete you. You'll be whole, and from that place, you'll be able to connect with others from a place of authenticity, not need. When you stop performing, when you stop seeking validation, when you stop bending to the expectations of others, you'll find that the people who are meant to be in your life will begin to appear. They won't be attracted to the role you're playing. They'll be attracted to the real you, the version of you that you've finally accepted and embraced. And that's when real, deep, meaningful relationships can blossom. But here's something else Jung pointed out: this process of individuation doesn't just affect your relationships with others. It also changes the way you relate to yourself. You stop seeing yourself as a collection of roles, as someone who needs to perform in order to be loved. You stop seeing yourself through the lens of what others think you should be, and instead, you start seeing yourself for who you truly are. And when you do that, you begin to live a life that is entirely your own. You no longer live for others' approval. You no longer perform to gain acceptance. You stop being a puppet in someone else's play. You become the author of your own story. And that, my friend, is when you experience the greatest freedom of all. The journey of individuation is not easy. It's uncomfortable, it's messy, and it requires you to face the parts of yourself that you've been running from for so long. But once you take that first step, once you begin to stop performing and start embracing your authentic self, everything changes. You'll see the world differently. You'll see yourself differently. And you'll see your relationships transform into something real, deep, and fulfilling. Because the truth is this: when you stop performing for the approval of others, when you choose to be real, when you choose to embrace your authentic self, you no longer need to chase anything. Everything you've been seeking, love, respect, connection, will come to you naturally, because you will have become the man who no longer needs to seek it. As you continue this journey of individuation, you'll notice a deep and fundamental shift in how you relate to the world around you. You'll stop looking for external sources to fill the empty spaces within you. You'll no longer rely on other people's opinions, validation, or approval to feel whole. Instead, you'll find a peace that comes from knowing, deep down, that you are enough. You will stop living for others' expectations and start living for yourself. This shift is liberating. It's the freedom to stand tall, unshaken, knowing exactly who you are and not needing anyone else to tell you. It's the kind of freedom that allows you to pursue your passions, your purpose, and your desires without second-guessing yourself. It's the kind of freedom that gives you the courage to step into the unknown, to take risks, and to trust yourself. Because when you stop seeking validation from others, you start trusting your own instincts, your own wisdom, and your own heart. But this freedom comes with responsibility. When you embrace your authentic self, you're no longer a passive participant in life. You become the active creator of your own reality. You're no longer swayed by outside influences or external pressures. You make choices based on what feels right for you, not based on what others think you should do. And that is a powerful way to live. However, this new reality won't always be easy. As you begin to step into your true self, you'll face challenges. There will be moments of doubt, moments when the fear of being alone or the fear of rejection will try to creep back in. But here's the thing: those moments of doubt are the very things you need to push through. They are the tests of your commitment to yourself, the proof that you are becoming who you were always meant to be. Individuation isn't a quick fix. It's not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. There will be ups and downs. There will be setbacks. But with every challenge, with every difficult moment, you will grow stronger. You will learn more about yourself. You will uncover more layers of truth. And with each layer that you uncover, you will become more whole, more complete, more authentic. And as you embrace your authenticity, as you stand in your own power, you'll begin to see the world around you shift. Relationships will become deeper and more meaningful, not because you are playing a role, but because you are showing up as your true self. You'll attract people who value you for who you are, not for the character you've been pretending to be. This is when true connection happens, when two people meet not as actors in a play, but as real, whole individuals who choose each other for who they truly are. The key here is that you won't need to prove yourself anymore. You won't need to perform, to chase, to please. You'll simply be, and that is more than enough. In fact, it's the most powerful way to be. And when you reach that point, you will realize something extraordinary: you no longer need anyone else to complete you. You are already complete. You are already whole. This realization is liberating. It frees you from the cycle of performance. It frees you from the fear of rejection. It frees you from the need to be validated. And in that freedom, you will find a deeper connection to others, because you'll no longer be trying to mold yourself into what they want you to be. You'll be yourself, and that's more than enough. Jung taught that individuation is the key to real freedom. It's the key to becoming whole. And the man who has gone through the process of individuation is not easily swayed by others' projections. He is not easily manipulated or controlled. He is grounded in who he is, and because of that, he is unstoppable. Not because he is perfect, but because he has accepted his imperfections. Not because he has everything figured out, but because he is willing to keep growing and evolving. This is the kind of man who is truly free. And this is the kind of man who attracts real, meaningful relationships. When you stop performing, when you stop trying to be what others want you to be, you begin to attract the kind of people who are also on their own journey of individuation. You'll find people who are grounded in their own truth, people who are whole, just as you are. And when two whole people come together, that is when love becomes a partnership, not a transaction. That is when love becomes real. But remember, this doesn't happen overnight. The path of individuation is long. It's challenging. But with each step, you'll find yourself growing more into who you're meant to be. You'll discover new layers of yourself, new truths that will guide you forward. And as you continue to grow, you'll start to notice something remarkable. The more you embrace your own truth, the more you will be able to see others for who they truly are. You'll stop projecting your fantasies onto them. You'll stop seeking someone to complete you, because you will already be complete. And from that place of wholeness, you will attract the right people, people who see you for who you really are and love you for it. So, the question you need to ask yourself now is, are you ready to stop performing? Are you ready to stop seeking approval from others? Are you ready to start living your truth, unapologetically? Because once you do, you'll step into a level of freedom, peace, and connection that most men will never experience. And when you do, you will become the kind of man who can no longer be controlled by fantasy, by projection, or by anyone else's expectations.